Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to Premier League predictions for yet another set of games. We hope you enjoy the new thumbnail for the Premier League predictions videos. I'm joined by Sophie. How are you doing?
Do you know what? Very, very good weekend of football, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I've got to say the title race, the top four race and that Premier League relegation battle. I'm enjoying it.
Spicy.
It's very spicy. Do make sure to hit that like button. We'll go for 250 likes on this video. Do make sure to hit the red subscribe button if you haven't already. And let's start with what should be a cracker, but it probably won't be. Liverpool versus Chelsea. I mean, a couple of seasons ago, you'd think, oh, what a great game this would be.
Yeah.
But they are both really rubbish at the moment.
Yeah,
they are honestly terrible. Chelsea did beat Palace 1-0 at the weekend, but it's only a small victory in the grand scale of how poor their season's been. If they can win this one and then the next one, they might start to redeem themselves and recover this season, but I still feel like they've left themselves a lot of work to do. As for Liverpool, I predicted them to finish second at the start of the season. They're nowhere near that at the moment. I don't even think they'll make the top four at this rate. They were destroyed by Brighton. I think it's a really tricky one to predict. 0-0.
Yeah, honestly, this is two teams in poor form going at it. It's just who's going to be worse on their day. And honestly, it could be either team. With Liverpool, I like Liverpool as well, but what is going on at the moment and the fact that they're not making good signings, the way they're playing, there's something going on there. Chelsea, I guess you could say the same. Although, fairness to Graham Potter, he's not really had a summer transfer window to kind of build his team and get all the signings in. João Felix, I think we need to mention as well. That is, I think, terrible business. You don't spend that much on a loan player. He gets red carded on his debut.
I thought he played okay until the red card.
I'm not saying about he's not a good player. I just think that that's bad business by Chelsea to spend that much on a loan player. He gets a red card. It was a terrible challenge as well. Yeah. So now he's out for 3 games. So it's going to cost him like 600k, 660k per game for him. Terrible business. Honestly, I could see this going either way, or as you say, a boring 0-0 draw. I don't want to agree with you, so I'll say Liverpool pick up a 1-0 win.
Does feel like that kind of game, doesn't it? Not much confidence for either two at the moment. Okay, down to the south coast. AFC Bournemouth take on Nottingham Forest. Now, Bournemouth did win 3-2 at Forest earlier this season, but how times have changed. Bournemouth are really going down the table. They've lost every game since the World Cup. Yeah. Forest, meanwhile, are starting to move up it. They're up to 13th, and if they win this and maybe the next one, they could even find themselves in the top half.
Yeah, honestly,
they might finish
title charges on
ahead of Liverpool and Chelsea this season. Seriously, who knows? Got to say, this game always brings me back to last season when Bournemouth played Forest right at the end of the Championship season and Bournemouth got promoted, but I think it'll be a different outcome this time. Forest are in good form. They've brought in a couple of decent players in January and that team with Cooper is starting to gel. Forest will win 2-0.
Yeah, I feel like I read somewhere that Dean Henderson might be injured though, so if that is true, then that is a massive blow. However, I do still see Forest picking up the 3 points, and I think it's going to be 2-0 as well.
Yeah, I think the keeper is a big miss, but
he is.
I think
he's
they've
not
got
going to be all and end all.
More confidence than Bournemouth at the moment, to be honest. Okay, on to Leicester City, who take on Brighton. Leicester losing 4 games in a row. And I don't think I fancy them to win this one. Leicester could find themselves back in the mess. I mean, remember, they started the season so poor. They shot away, which we all expected. But now they're going back down towards the bottom 3. Brighton, meanwhile, brilliant win against Liverpool, 3-0. I just think Brighton are brilliant. I've run out of things to compliment them on. They're too good. 3-1 Brighton. Yeah,
I think in fairness to Leicester, they've still got a few key players out, and that's obviously affecting their performance. Completely opposite with Brighton. They're in really, really good form, and you're thinking, who's going to stop them at the moment? Is it going to be Leicester? No. So for me, 2-0 Brighton.
Okay, now next up, I think this is a really interesting game. Southampton versus Aston Villa. I've got to say, with the change in management, they're both doing well. Southampton are now. Initially, under Jones, I was a bit like, oh, hang on, they've lost their first 4 league games. But they beat Palace in the FA Cup, Man City in the Carabao Cup, and then they beat Everton in the Premier League. 3 great wins in a week. Meanwhile, Aston Villa will give them so much credit because even though they lost to Stevenage in the Premier League, they continued to win. They beat Leeds on the Friday night, 2-1. Yeah. You predicted that. I'll give you some credit for that. I think Southampton need the points more, and I'm going to back them to win 3-1.
Oh no, I see this being an entertaining game. As you say, I think Southampton need the points. But then Villa, I think to kind of keep that momentum going, they need the points as well. So I see it being an entertaining 2-2.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting game though.
Yeah.
I don't think Southampton are going to finish bottom if they keep going the way they are. They might even survive.
I did think at some point like they're in just shocking form, but they're kind of turning a corner.
Yeah, massive game down the bottom next. West Ham versus Everton. Who'd have thought these two would be in the bottom three? And the problem is, for these two, they can't both win. When they both need to get away, one of these is going to be trapped in there for at least another weekend. I think it'd be Everton. Everton are so poor, it's getting so toxic. The fact they lost at home to Southampton just goes to show they're really not capable of beating anyone at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got that 1-1 draw at Man City. It just seems like a result which came out of the blue. Yeah, a bit of a freak result. I think Everton are a great club, but I think they're in such a mess, and I think they're going down. I feel confident that Everton could finish bottom. West Ham are not in a great position, but at least they're in a better position than Everton. This fixture should be a good one for them. 3-1 West Ham.
Yeah, I think, as you said, at Everton at the moment it's very, very toxic. With the fans blocking the players and just hurling abuse at them, it's not the right way to go about it. I understand the frustration because they're playing very, very poor. Again, they're coming up against a side that aren't in good form either, so they might think, okay, do you know what, we can get a result here, but I don't see that happening. So for me, West Ham win, but 1-0.
Okay, on to Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace versus Newcastle United. Palace, decent team. We said they've got some big games coming, and if they were to go on a bit of a losing run, they could find themselves getting sucked back into this, but I don't think they will go down. They're much more settled than the teams in the bottom half. Could they maybe climb the table? Newcastle, on the other hand, continue to win. A great crucial win against Fulham late on, leaving it to the 89th minute for Isak to pop up with the goal. Newcastle won their last game 1-0. I'm going to go for a similar narrative. Palace 0, Newcastle 1.
I think Newcastle are a very good team, and sometimes, because I kind of rate them so highly, I think they underperform slightly. I think they could get more than a 1-0 here. Not taking anything away from Palace, because on their day they're a good team too, but they're just quite inconsistent. So for me, Newcastle are going to win 2-0. 2-0.
Okay, now a massive game at Ellen Road. Leeds United versus Brentford. Earlier in the season, Brentford beat Leeds 5-2 at their place, and then if you go back to the final game of last season, Leeds won at Brentford on the final day 2-1 to stay up. So there's always interesting games when these two meet, but Leeds really need the points because they're not in the bottom three yet, but if West Ham are playing Everton, someone's bound to pick up points, and Leeds could be left as that team to slip in and fill the void in that bottom three. I do like Brentford. I really like Brentford. But I just feel like with Leeds being at home, they've got to take this opportunity. I feel like I'm going to go for a surprise here. Leeds 2-1.
Oh, no, I'm actually going to go the other way. I think they're going to lose again 2-1. I just don't think they're in very good form at the moment. They're massively underperforming, and I don't see where their next win is going to come from. I need to mention as well that I like Brentford. I think they play nice football. I like their business model, and that's why I'm kind of backing them to win, so 2-1.
Interesting game. They can both play good football.
But yeah, they do.
On to Manchester City, who take on Wolves. Man City losing to Manchester United has really given Arsenal a massive boost, especially with Arsenal's win against Tottenham. Wolves, meanwhile, are back to beat West Ham 1-0. They went and did that, and they're now out of that bottom three. It's a really tricky game. It's a free hit to go to Man City, but I'm going to go for a massive surprise here and say Wolves might be able to get a point at the Etihad. I think Man City, after losing to the Manchester United game, my mind is starting to shift. I think Arsenal are going to win the league, and Man City are really throwing it away.
Yeah.
Man City 1, Wolves 1.
I agree with what you're saying. I think it's looking like it's Arsenal's to lose here, because Man City, they are throwing the points away. They were 1-0 up as well, so to lose the game is not great. I do think that the manager is going to absolutely hammer them for that loss at United. I don't want to take anything away from Wolves and say that they're going to get battered because they're a bad team. I just think Man City, on their day when they're firing, they can sweep any team to one side, and I think they need to come back from that game with a heavy win. So for me, it's going to be a 4-0 Man City win.
Oh wow, okay, completely opposite to me then. Right, on to the biggest Premier League game of the weekend, Arsenal versus Manchester United. They both got massive wins over their rivals last weekend.
Both in amazing form as well.
They are. It's all set up to be an absolute cracker, but we might get a 0-0. Yeah, you know what it's like in the Premier League. You get a 0-0 draw. Arsenal, I mean, even if they draw this, it's not a disaster because the gap extended again. I think they've really got to be careful of losing this, because if they do, I think we can start to say Manchester United are officially in the title race, because they could really catch up with Arsenal if they get a win here. This is really hard to call. They're both so good. I literally could see either team winning it. But what's tipping it for me is Arsenal are the home team.
Yeah.
So Arsenal 1-0.
Yeah, I can see this being a draw, not 0-0. I do think there's going to be goals in this. I don't want to take anything away from United because they're playing really, really well at the moment, especially to get that win against Man City. A lot of their good players are finding form at the right time as well, and it's all coming together quite nicely at United. But they're coming up against Arsenal, who, again, they've got that togetherness. Even the fans, they're just loving it at the moment. There's such a good positive vibe around Arsenal at the moment. I either want to say 2-2 or 2-1 to Arsenal. Purely because the Gunners are at home, I'm going to say 2-1.
Yeah, massive game.
Yeah.
I just think Arsenal don't know a lot of losing or even drawing at them. They're just very good. And the final game is between Fulham and Tottenham Hotspur. London derby. They're both playing white, but I tell you what, Fulham look like the more established Premier League team this season. Tottenham are all over the place. I've got to say, at home in a derby against Arsenal, when they had the opportunity to really mess it up for them, they messed up for themselves.
Yeah.
They were so poor. First half, they lost the game in the first half, honestly. And then the second half, there wasn't enough fight. They didn't even get on the score sheet. It's just terrible. Meanwhile, Fulham, yes, they lost to Newcastle, but they held them off for 89 minutes. And Fulham even had the chance to win that game against Newcastle, but Mitrovic slipped over and double-touched the ball. I think now they're at home and against a really flaky Spurs team, this is an easy one for me. 2-0 Fulham.
Oh, okay. See, I don't think it's going to be an easy game because Spurs need to turn it around. They're in poor form. I think some of their fans let them down as well at the weekend, but we won't go too much into that. With Fulham being at home as well, that's why I'm leaning towards them even more. But I see it being a slightly tighter game. But 1-0 Fulham.
1-0 Fulham. There you go, guys. That wraps up our Premier League predictions. Get your thoughts down below. Make sure to hit that like button and do make sure to subscribe down below. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.